Let's just start with your view on this, because so far what we know about it from the government is they say there'll be more privacy safeguards compared to Singapore. We are waiting for the details of it, but you've already said you won't download it. Why have you said that already?
Because we're still waiting for the details, aren't we, just as you said, Tom? And how many times have we heard that there'll be more safeguards? I mean, that's the preamble to every form of government harvesting of information. Now, I have no doubt that it would certainly help total control of what people are doing if everybody used it and where they are. But you've got to ask yourself the question, how much of your liberty, how much of your privacy are you willing to hand over? This app works in a different form. It's very much based on the Singaporean app, and it works in the form that it has the Bluetooth in your phone basically talking to Bluetooth in mine. So they get a register of the two people who are talking to one another, how long they're talking to one another, or even other people that you were near. So you're handing across a lot of information. Now, Australia has been exceptionally good at dealing with COVID-19, and we've done it not by reason of this app, but by reason of people being logical and being respectful of other people and acting in the proper way. And I think we're the envy of the world in what we've achieved. But if we overstep the mark and look like it's an incursion into people's privacy, we'll start to lose that support from the public, which is so paramount.
The response from the government, of course, is it's not just handing over data, that this system will only be released to the health department if there's a positive test. And of course, they're getting the same information at that point that people presumably hand over voluntarily, tell the authorities who they've been close to. The Minister as well says you haven't got a briefing from him or his office. Will you get that briefing?
I'm too happy. My phone's free. If someone wants to give me a bell, go right ahead. Obviously, this popped out of the blue, so we're having to react to it as we go along. I'm happy to get a briefing. I'm happy for someone from the office to contact me if they believe they need to, or I can contact them. That's exactly what should happen. As far as when we say, oh, well, everything will be protected, I'd like to... There's been studies on this by the Imperial College London and also another Catholic University in Belgium. And no matter what protections you put in, you're harvesting... There's a data manager, and that data manager has the capacity, if someone has COVID-19, to then go and de-encrypt the data and find out all the people who that person's been near. And that statement alone says there is a capacity for this to be de-encrypted. It has a capacity. It's not a blind database. It has the capacity that people get the specific details pertinent to all the people that you've been near. Now, if everybody's benevolent, there's not a problem. But people who hack into your computer systems aren't benevolent forces, they're malevolent forces. And we know that even the computer system at Parliament House has been hacked into. So it's caution.
Just on the getting information, you say you're happy to get a briefing. Given we're told this is for the greater good, and we're in a pretty different time right now where probably some people are putting cynicism towards the government, if not to one side, at least turning it down a little bit. Wouldn't it be best before coming out and making the statements you are to ask the Minister to allay any of the fears you're outlining there?
Well, I mean, wouldn't it be better if we'd known about it before I was contacted by a journalist about it? I mean, this is the issue. Because we're all so dispersed from the Parliament, it's a different type of operation. Now, the role of a politician is to flesh out an issue, and if that requires putting a contrarian piece to get more information out, then it's precisely what it should do. I mean, I'm a bit bemused by the fact that the Labor Party is... during the stimulus package, we're now going towards $1 trillion in debt. There should be more questions asked about how you're going to repay it. That's going to be vitally important. With this issue here, there are a lot of studies from people who are vastly more proficient in this area than you or I, Tom, and the results of their studies is of course you never go into this blind. Never go for it'll all be protected and nothing will ever get out. I'm very doubtful whether an app like this would pass the European protocols for privacy. So utilise it, sure. Accept that it would help in the control of the disease, sure. But also accept that you're going to be giving up a lot of your privacy, and there is a risk in that.
Okay. In terms of giving up privacy, I mean, do you have, for example, a map app on your phone, Google Maps or anything similar?
Yeah, I know, but the great thing about journos is you ask the same question. So by the time I get the fourth time, I'm ready for you. Look, of course you've got Google Maps, but they're not talking about who you had a conversation with, are they, Tom? I mean, they're not registering how often you spoke to Kieran Gilbert, how often you spoke to Laura Jays, who you spoke to at the coffee shop, how long you spoke to them. who you spoke to after 5 o'clock.
Well, if people really wanted to, and they got multiple people's locations, they could line people,
Tom,
couldn't they?
They don't do that, do they? This is a different form of application. And by reason, you've got to have different concerns. It's stupid to say, oh, it's just like your app that tells you where McDonald's is. There's nothing like that at all.
What about metadata and those laws, Barnaby Joyce, that you supported? Do you have the same concerns that, yes, if everyone was benevolent, it would be fine? What if they're not? That people that have access to this information?
Well, the metadata issues is part of the studies that the Imperial College London went through, and of course, we're all reading up on it as quickly as we can, or I certainly am, and there's concerns there. I suppose.
But this was passed years ago, and you supported it then and voted for it.
It's a John Maynard Keynes line, isn't it, Tom? When I have more information, I change my mind. What do you do?
So you're saying you've changed your mind on metadata?
Oh, no, I'm saying let's stick to the subject. I'm saying you should have proper due diligence and prudence about giving away more of your privacies, which are always asked of you for the right reasons, but it's a balancing act, and it's not a blank cheque. It should never, ever be a blank cheque. It should be a balancing act. And, yes, I do have concerns, and I would be very reticent to let people know. As I said before, I've got curtains in my house, not because there's crimes going on inside it. It's because I like my privacy. I like being anonymous. And, I like being anonymous in my house, and I like being anonymous electronically. I don't particularly want, unless it's an incredibly good reason, to have everybody know who I talk to, when I talk to them, and quite obviously they know that.
But I'm just asking about that comparison to metadata laws. Do you have concerns now, given what you're voicing about this particular app, the sweeping powers?
No, you're changing the subject back to another issue. I want to stick with the app that we're talking about in regards to coronavirus.
Well, no, we've spoken a lot about the app, and that's fair enough. And we're waiting. What I'm just asking is, given your concerns about security, and as you said, if everyone were benevolent accessing this app, there'd be no problem, but you're not necessarily confident about that, wouldn't you have the same concerns about metadata?
I'm going to discuss this issue, otherwise, we're going to go tangential to the subject that should be before people's minds, and that's consideration of what privacies you're offering up by including on your phone an app which will basically straight away log into other people's Bluetooth that you may not know, you may know them. As you walk past them, if you talk to them, there will be a log of who you've spoken to, where, how long you've spoken to them, and so on. Quite obviously deducted from that as to where you have been. In the 4 pieces of information I asked from you, as I go on what Minister Robert has said, is they ask for your postcode, so we're off to a start as to where you're at. And as regards other previous metadata legislation, we can have another interview at another time, Tom. I'm happy to talk about that.
Okay, well, we perhaps might talk to you again down the track when you have that briefing and see if fears are alight. Obviously, there are details to come, I accept that, so we're all flying a little bit blind. I wanted to ask you finally, though, on the threat in terms of coronavirus. You said in early March that you thought snake bites were a bigger threat to Australians.
No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that, Tom. Tom, I didn't say that, did I? That's you, going for verbaling me. I said more people globally have died of snakebite. There's about 130 to 150,000 people a year die of snakebite. I didn't say it was a greater threat to you.
The situation now in those deaths, though, is that coronavirus has many, many more times deaths than snakebite. So
hang on. Has it, Tom? Snakebite kills around about 130, 150,000 people a year. Are you saying many, many times? That's 2. Are you saying...
That's about 3,000 or 4,000 according to Timothy Jackson from the Australian Venom Research Unit.
Are you saying that 300,000 people have died of coronavirus now?
No, what I'm saying is, according to Australian Venom Research Unit at the University of Melbourne, about 3,000 or 4,000 globally die of snake bites.
No, well, it's around about 130 to 150,000 people die of snake bite globally. It's not. I don't know where you got those figures from, but I can send you through the other ones if you want them. I think it's the World Health Organisation, actually.
Okay, but clearly this is a big issue that's going to kill a lot of people. We should be taking it seriously.
Of course it is. Of course it is. But, don't verbal me. Don't say, oh, well, you said it was a greater threat than snakebite in Australia, because I didn't say that. It sounds great and gives you a sugar hit, but it's not the truth. I'm saying there's around about, and I'll send you through the figures, I think it's the World Health Organisation, about 130 to 150,000 people die a year of snakebite. What I'm saying about that is death is
all right.
Doesn't really matter how it happens. It's a terrible thing, and you should protect yourself against it. that, in everything, if you just say, well, any protection whatsoever, anything that's put up must be accepted without question, then if I say to you, Tom, well, you should just lock yourself in your room because that way you definitely won't catch the disease, you won't catch the virus, and you won't spread the virus. But that would be totally and utterly unreasonable because you'd be excessively giving up your liberties, and I'm sure you would argue.
All right.
So therefore, there is balance in
Barnaby Joyce.